Right now, Tucson sector is experiencing an incredible flow of cross-border traffic, the vast majority of which is single adults. About 85% of what we deal with is single adults. Since the beginning of this fiscal year, we've had about 100,000 encounters, of people coming across the border, and that's all demographics. That's single adults, that's unaccompanied children. I think one of our biggest concerns right now is the unaccompanied children. We've had well over 9,000 so far, and that makes this year, fiscal year 21, the record for Tucson sector as far as the unaccompanied children crossing the border.
What has changed that suddenly so many children are crossing the border into Arizona?
Well, from what we can gather based on post-arrest interviews, it seems as though there's a majority of people that are crossing that have the perception that our laws changed with the change in administration. Obviously, they have not. The border's still closed. We're still enforcing the same laws that we always have, but the perception has changed.
In many cases, we see things like large groups very north of the border, people in the back of trunks or squashed into vehicles. How does it happen that they're able to cross the border and make their way so far north?
So what you're saying is we are seeing some large groups like you're talking about, but the large groups basically give up right on the border. They cross the border and just turn themselves into the first Border Patrol agent that they see. And you see that a lot in other places, in Rio Grande Valley and in Del Rio, Texas. We don't see that very much here. That's a very small percentage of what we're dealing with. The vast majority of the people that cross here are doing everything they can to avoid apprehension. So they're actively evading apprehension. You've probably seen, we've released a lot of photographs through social media. The vast majority are wearing camouflage from head to toe and moving in very small groups, generally in groups of 1 or 2, in order to try to task saturate our ability to apprehend them.
Can you put task saturate into layman's terms for someone like myself?
Yes, yeah. What I just mean is that there's a finite number of Border Patrol agents out there. And if there's a group of 100 that are giving themselves up, then 1 or 2 agents can potentially deal with that group and get that group onto transport and get them back to our facilities and get them processed. It also takes a single agent to apprehend a single person out there. So, it's just numbers. If we have X number of agents in the field and X number of people cross individually, then it takes that many agents to apprehend that many people.
Some of the photos that I have seen have been in areas that the agency refers to as the West Desert, for example, the Tohono O'odham Nation. How is it that groups are able to cross there so easily?
Yeah, well, there, south of the nation, there is no, or there's very limited infrastructure, border infrastructure. So a lot of it is, what we refer to as Normandy barrier. Basically, it's sort of a K-rail that's built to prevent vehicles from crossing the border. People can just step over it or go right under it.
Further east, for example, in Cochise County, I've had ranchers who tell me that the construction stopped and that there are actual groups of people who will just funnel through that. Is that what you've seen?
Yes.
What becomes of those areas? Can you put additional manpower temporarily?
Yeah, so that's exactly what we do. We try to address those issues with personnel, with technology.
Have there been instances where you see children in some of these very remote and treacherous terrains?
So, fortunately, children not so much. Most of the children are giving themselves up as soon as they cross the border now, and anywhere out there is treacherous. This is, of all the border I've worked, and I've been in the agency more than 25 years, I've never seen more dangerous places than we have out here.
According to the Pima County Medical Examiner's Office, last year 220 sets of human remains were recovered in Pima, Santa Cruz, and Cochise counties, a 62% increase compared to 2019. The medical examiner's report cited record heat and drought as factors. In addition to increased apprehensions, Maudlin also says his agents are seizing more hard drugs along the border.
Traditionally, the hard narcotics have gone through ports of entry, for example, but you're saying that field agents are seeing this.
Yes, yeah. So we are seeing an increase in hard narcotics, probably about at least an 80% increase from where we were last year this time in hard narcotics, mostly fentanyl. And you know, it's certainly with the cost. Obviously, there's a lot of profit to be made in hard narcotics, and much easier to transport than the old days of 50 pounds of marijuana strapped to someone's back. Much easier to put a couple kilos of fentanyl or methamphetamine in a backpack and cross that way.
Because you've been in the agency for 25 plus years, what are you seeing differently from the smugglers? They're charging more, they're making better promises?
Yeah, so I think that the smugglers are charging more. I think the other thing that we're seeing is the introduction much more of technology with the smuggling. You know, there's been some very high profile cases of people that came into this area to smuggle migrants out of the area and were recruited through social media applications, things like that. And then even the migrants that are crossing the border using GPS and cell phone technology to aid that trip. That is something that we haven't experienced before.
You have that situational awareness, yet somehow people are able to get past.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I mean, what we're not doing is standing on the border shoulder to shoulder, you know, stopping with the ability to stop everything that crosses. You know, the people that are smuggling migrants across the border have spent years doing this, and they, you know, they spend all day watching us and determining where to move people across the border.
And when you've got something like 90,000 square miles, it's going to happen that someone gets through.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Chief Modlin, thank you.
Thank you.